I'm very, very happy to open today's webinar on proposal evaluation process of Horizon Europe proposals. It's the third webinar of the new series of webinars the European Union delegation in Ottawa has been organizing since the publication of the Horizon Europe program, Horizon Europe Work Program 26-27. And we are very, very happy to have a very good agenda here and a good participation, as I see, also for this webinar. I would like to share with you also, it's a very good opportunity to share with you my enthusiasm and excitement because over the last days we have been over Canada explaining, meeting with you, universities and stakeholders. We had the second edition of the annual roadshow across Canada last week, where we continued our outreach about Horizon Europe. We started last Monday at Quebec. We were at University Laval. Then we went to Manitoba, to the University of Manitoba in Winnipeg, and we finalized our roadshow at the University of Waterloo. I would really like to thank wholeheartedly the universities which hosted us, and also all the participants which showed their interest and enthusiasm about participating in Horizon Europe calls. We had the opportunity to present the calls, especially under Cluster 4 on digital space and industry and on Cluster on health. So I will not take a lot more of your time. I just wanted to inform you that this has been some exciting days with all of you around Canada talking about Horizon Europe opportunities. And I will give the floor now to Tamara to continue with her presentation about how ISED is supporting Canadian entities in this effort, in this joint effort. Tamara, the floor is yours, and thank you again for all the excellent cooperation also during the roadshow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Costas. As Costas mentioned, my name is Tamara Stone. I work at Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, and I am the National Contact Point Coordinator for Canada, working in the Canada's Horizon Europe Secretariat. I'm here with my colleague, Josh Atencia, who will be answering questions in the chat during the presentation. Before I continue with my presentation, I'd like to acknowledge that living in the Ottawa-Gatineau region, I am on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. I wish also to recognize that we all work in different locations. Therefore, you're all probably working on different Indigenous lands that have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. The Indigenous peoples are the traditional stewards of the lands and waters where each of us are meeting today. I encourage you to take a moment to think about which territory you're on today. Now, continuing on my presentation, it's a short presentation that I'm making about where to find information following this presentation on evaluation. Next slide, please. To support your participation in Horizon Europe, we have national contact points. These national contact points are subject matter experts. We provide guidance, information, and assistance on a wide range of topics, including legal and financial aspects of the program. We share best practices and information with our European and other international NCPs, and we connect Canadian researchers and innovators with our global partners. So since the association, my team and I, we've done a number of matchmaking events and technical webinars with the EU delegation and other key EU partners. So please reach out to us if you have any questions. Next slide, please. So here's how you find us. So there's Canada's Horizon Europe website lists all of the national contact points, the email addresses, as well as the departments or the club they have expertise. So I encourage you to click on this or go to this link or go to Horizon Europe, the Horizon Europe Canada website to find all information. We've also recently updated our website with all kinds of useful information for Canadian participants. So please go there. So we have our website, we have our contact information, and of course, if you have general questions, or if you would like to sign up for our newsletter to find out more about more upcoming events or tips and tricks and tidbits about the program, you can sign up at our at the link, so at the Horizon Europe ISED-ESED.gc.ca. And you can also go there to ask any question, any generic questions, or if you're not even sure where to start, that's a great place to do so. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. And I turn it now to Aggie to start the.
So I'm here to guide us through the clue of the program. We thought actually that we would share with you, of course, the evaluation tricks and hints. However, before we go to that presentation and we hear from our expert, I would like to invite all of you to listen to another presentation. We have to share some new developments in Pillar 1, and we never really talk about Pillar 1 in this in these webinars. However, there are new exciting opportunities that will be presented by Professor Daria Karjan, our Euraccess representative. So Daria, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Agnieszka. It's a great pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting us today. And as you mentioned, I am the representative of Euraccess North America, covering the US and Canada. And today I will be presenting Euraccess North America and Pillar 1. I will not focus on the evaluation process in detail, but overall the structure of the Pillar 1. So I would like to share my screen. First, let me. So as Euraccess North America, we are the international arm of Euraccess, but Euraccess it started in 2004 and as a European initiative and to support the researcher mobility and promote Europe as a research and living destination. So in general, when we talk about Euraccess, it's a networking and information tool. And it is for the researchers, regardless of their nationalities at all career levels, who wants to go to Europe or live in Europe or who want to stay connected with Europe. You don't have to always go to Europe, but you can still keep your connections with European institutions and researchers. So Euraccess promotes the researchers' career mobility and development. It is backed by the European Commission, EU member states and associated countries, and 9 global hubs. So when we are talking about the European countries, we mainly focus on the EU member states and associated countries. And we also know that associated countries are also for the whole Horizon Europe and also some countries like Canada just for Pillar 2 association. So everything in Euraccess services are free of charge. And when you visit the website, you will see we have mainly 5 services. But today I will just mainly focus on jobs and funding and information assistance and worldwide because we offer a lot of services, especially for career development with different tools if you just visit the website. So in jobs and funding, it's a great portal, and it is the world's largest portal on jobs and funding opportunities. It is mainly centrally organized, managed by the European Commission, and every day you can find different opportunities for faculty positions, Horizon Europe related funding schemes, like MSCA for postdoctoral PhD positions or fellowships or national-based, funding schemes. So please write your keywords there, and you will relate it to your, country, level of expertise and everything, and be consistent about, searching every day, because this website is updated every day. So you will have a great opportunity to reach out these opportunities. As you see, there are more than 80,000 job vacancies listed every year. And this is another thing that all the researchers can do. You can also register yourself or your organization in the portal, because the other organizations can also reach out to you. As you see, there are more than 60,000 registered researchers. So what you can do, if you would also like to publish your hosting opportunities as an organization, you can also register yourself. This is for looking opportunities, but if you're interested in different countries in the EU and associated countries, EURAXESS national portals are great, because for more than 40 countries, you can search the details of your working conditions, how to living there through these portals, and more than 600 dedicated service centers are in different universities so that they can help you. And these are the topics that you can get information, because these, like banking, health insurance, medical care, it takes a lot of time for you to get all these information. So for you and for your family, of course, these are great opportunities for you to get information about the country that you are going to move or pursue your career in the future. And the international arm of EURAXESS is EURAXESS Worldwide, and this is our team. We have a great team in 9 different regions. We have 15 colleagues in all over the world. And why this is a bit different than so it is a kind of networking part of the EURAXESS team, because we link the researchers outside of Europe with the European researchers and institutions. And Jackson Howard, my colleague, now he's also be with us, but he can also help us in answering your questions. And since 2020, we are working to provide Canada and the US related news and events that you need. So we mainly work for you to gather this information, funding opportunities on our portal. And if you can subscribe our twice monthly flash notes, you can get updated from all of these novelties, new dates and events. This is also for the US and Canada. We have a lot of European scientific diasporas. We also try to connect them with the European partners, and as well as the other events that we try to organize. So if you would like to contact with us, please just write directly to this email, and Jackson and I will be very helpful to help you just provide some information and also organize some events. And sometimes we have also budget to visit your university for in-person events. Please also follow us on social media channels. So this is the second part of my presentation about Pillar 1. As you know, it is under the Horizon Europe program. And we all know that it is the largest research and innovation program funded by the EU and the countries associated and EU member countries. And under this Pillar 1, there are 3 pillars, as we know. And this structure is different from most of the funding schemes. And Pillar 2, which I'm going to be more focused on today, is more bottom-up, means that all the researchers will submit their projects, but they don't need to, there are not predetermined topics like in the Pillar 2. So what you all need to do is that define your own objectives, what you want to really focus on, and find a host organization and follow, of course, the mobility rules and eligibility rules. So the first one is European Research Council. grants, and the second one is Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions. Before I start, probably you may all know, but Horizon Europe has some strategic plans for specific years. But if you would like to all the details about these funding schemes for Pillar 1 and Pillar 2, please go ahead and look at the work program. And we have the new work program for 26 and 7, which you can get all the updated information, and they are very new. And even in some slides, we also need to update because there are some novelties both for MSCA and ERC. For the Canada and the US, as you know, they are the third countries because they have the under the list of high income countries. For Pillar 1, both the US and Canada are not directly eligible for funding, but they can participate as third countries. And let's go to ERC funds, because as we all know, this is a very prestigious, very competitive, but at the same time, it has lots of values to be part of these ERC grants. So this grant is specifically for the individual researchers from all over the world. For Pillar 1, we have this is something different from most of the funding programs. It's all for the researchers from all countries. So there is individual researcher from all over the world for a long time grants for high risk, high gain pioneering projects. You can apply to ERC grants. And this is why ERC is different from the other funding schemes, because the first one is the only criterion is scientific excellence. So it is evaluated according to this criterion. And there is no consortia, as I said, there is a bottom-up approach, and it is supported by the frontier research of all different kinds of fields, from science and humanities to international, engineering. And it has a different scientific council. This is the new scientific council. Perhaps in our previous presentations, you saw other faces. So this is the new ERC Scientific Council. And why you should apply for ERC, because first of all, you will work on your own research topic and you will have the autonomy for 5 years, and you can also attract excellent team members from the other countries anywhere in the world. And you can also get additional funding. And this slide is also new because ERC grant schemes, perhaps you remember from the previous one, that we didn't have plus grants. This is the new initiative under the Choose Europe for Science initiative. And as you see, we have starting grants, consolidator, advanced, and synergy grants. And the researchers from 10 to less than 10 years, they can apply for the starting grants. And when you are advancing, you can also apply for the other grants. But be careful because the windows of eligibility has been changed. So try to be more careful about this. And as you know, synergy grants, and for all of these starting and advanced grants, you need to spend half of your time in an associated country or an EU country member state. But in synergy grants, one of these PIs can be based outside of the EU or associated countries. I will talk more about plus grants, but as you see, it has more generous funding, and it has longer terms like 4 to 7 years and up to 7 million budgets. So these a bit more competitive, but this is a new funding scheme, and the main feature is the excellence only, and it's again open to all fields and nationalities, but the projects cannot be carried out with regular ERC grants. You can get more information about the work program. And look at the numbers. As you see, Canada is the second in receiving the ERC grants. As you see the numbers, it is increasing, and even the other countries are competing more to get the ERC grants. I think hopefully the number will go increasing. The other opportunity for the ERC fund is that you can be a part of ERC team. As you see, when an ERC grantee have these funds, they can hire researchers from all over the world. So there is no regional, barrier for them. So, and as a team member, this is also a great opportunity and flexibility that you can hire team members from the other countries. And at Euraccess World, portal, you can also see these vacancies as well. And this is another good opportunity, ERC implementing arrangements, but due to the time limit, I will not focus. But you can also apply for implementing arrangements. Especially this is for you, for the scientists and the researchers who wants to visit and collaborate with ERC research teams, they can apply. And with the US National Science Foundation and in Canada, Canadian Tri-Agency Institutional Program Secretariat sign these agreement with the European Commission. So this is the time, this webinar is for evaluation, but we are not the experts on ERC like NCPs, but I would like to share the main, slide, how the evaluation process goes from the first step to the last step. So with the new work program, this has also changed. Please go and look at the more simplified and a bit different parts. Part B and Part B1 and 2 has changed. So try to be more careful about these steps for the evaluation process. But it looks a bit complicated, but when you see it is not, and you will get more information from the website. This is the evaluation panel structure. Your submissions will be evaluated by these panels. Only thing that I want to finish this ERC part is that there is something that is not true. We always think that the host organization is really important, but on the evaluation criterion, it is not the really important point, and they don't really look at the publication record of yours. They only look at the scientific excellence. I mean, how your research is different, and in the future, how it creates some impacts for the global, to tackle the global challenges as well. And this is a new video. And these 6 videos are all ERC classes that you can get all the information about the ERC. And I will just mention about Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions very fast, because I know that you are more interested on ERC grants. As I mentioned, as the third country, Canada cannot receive direct funding, but the universities, the research organizations in Canada can host and train researchers under the project costs, and in some cases, send academic and administrative staff to other organizations. So don't think that without, some of the funding schemes like Staff Exchange and doctoral networks, you can still take part, be the part of this consortia with your own funding, but you can still negotiate with the host organization as well. So the Marie Curie has mainly for the researchers after they finish their PhDs, and it is more international, cross-sectoral and interdisciplinary mobility. I say mobility because main component of these MSCA schemes are based on the mobility. And these are the 5 main actions: doctoral networks for doctoral education, postdoctoral fellowships, and staff exchange. I will not go detail of these doctoral networks, but you can send your students to a host organization, but for the duration of 4 years, but 3 organizations minimum apply. For the staff exchange, it is the same. And then they share all these information on EURAccess website and in other networks as well. So the budget approximately is for 3 years, and they hire like 15 fellows approximately. And for the staff exchange, the duration is 4 years. The composition is the same, minimum 3 organizations, but 2 of them must be EU or member states. 2 of them, minimum of them. And there are some secondments from 1 to 12 months. And for the postdoctoral fellowships, I think you all know this. If you're a postdoctoral researcher, if you want to be a postdoctoral researcher, you find a host organization, institution, and a supervisor. And there are 2 kinds of MSc postdoctoral fellowships. When we look, the first one is European fellowships. So the third country researchers and the researchers in the EU and associated countries go to EU or associated country to have this training, fellowship training. And for the global, this time the European researchers go to the other third countries to pursue their fellowships. But all these 12 to 24 months of fellowship duration is the same for each postdoctoral fellowships. But for the global ones, there is one different thing, that they have a mandatory 1-year return phase. So these are the details, but who can apply as a Canadian researcher if you would like to? There is some mobility rules, but I just want to mention 2 or 3 things here. There's no age restriction, and the maximum 8 years. It means that full-time researcher experience since PhD award, but there are lots of exceptions. Please go and check from the website. You will see that this 8 years is not really 8 years. You have other exceptions. And the mobility rule is for both. You cannot or you must not have resided or carried out your main activity in the country of beneficiary. This is something for both European fellowships and the global fellowships. And the resubmission. This is about evaluation. Restricts resubmissions with score less than 70% to the following year. So this is the EU contribution. And my last slides are about how to apply. I will not go in detail, but we will share the presentations with you about how to apply. So the main website, as you all know, is the Funding and Tenders portal. You can get all the information, the guidelines, work programs there. Please log in and see what are the opportunities there. And as mentioned, MSCA Matchmaking platform is a great opportunity for you to find the host organizations and connect with MSCA national contact points. And these experts will help you in each step of your application. Of course, EURAccess, you will see all these opportunities published in our portal. So these are the timeline for MSCA. You can just look at it, and these are the links. I would just want to finish with the new initiative of the EU, Choose Europe for Science. It was launched last year, and there was a specific call for MSCA. The deadline was December, but they're going to open another MSCA extra opportunity for you. And ERC Plus grants are also under this Choose Europe for Science. So please follow the websites. And I would like to add that you have also more than 100 national and regional initiatives, means that you have more funding, but the governments of these countries provide these extra funding for you. When you go to Euraccess portal, jobs and funding, you will also find this Choose Your Europe initiative, and you can find it. Please don't hesitate to contact us. Jackson Howard and I will be very happy to help you. When you have any questions, then please try to follow us on social media. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daria. We have had quite a lot of questions in writing, so I will leave you now maybe with this task, to see if you want to add anything and to answer them in writing in our Q&As, because as always, we have the questions asked there. And we move immediately to our evaluation expert, who comes to us the second time, actually. We hosted Steinar Valde Amland, I think in January 2025. When we started this series, and the presentation was really incredibly rich. So Steinar is joining us from Europe. I don't know where exactly. I assume Denmark, but maybe not. And he's currently an independent consultant at 3.0, but has been working as expert evaluator, rapporteur, and vice chair for several DGs and evaluation processes since 2011. Steinar main field of expertise is creative industries, but he supports also NGOs and public sector organizations. So, Steinar, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Agnieszka. I have been allotted 20 minutes. That will be a challenge, but I will do the best I can to get through my slides and the different aspects that I want to share with you. I've sort of organized it into four sections. First, a little bit about the big picture of evaluations, and I have to add, this is all Pillar 2 work that I will be referring to. Then I will go into the criteria and how we sort of deal with the different aspects of a proposal and the importance of specific parts of that. Three terms that determine your proposal's destiny. It sounds very dramatic, but it's very much a little peek into the logic of the evaluators when we assess the sort of the ranking of the different proposals. And finally, I'll go through a handful or a little bit more of considerations and checkpoints that I would recommend you to sort of have in mind when you develop your proposals and before you send it or submit it for funding. So overall, I'd say that, and you probably know that there are several different types of calls for proposals, but the major ones are either pure research proposals. There are research and innovation actions. There's pure innovation action. Those are all long-term, most often 3-year projects or proposal spans with budgets which can range from anything from 1 or 2 million euros up to 15-20 millions, all depending on the scope of it and all depending on the expectations of the Commission. But then there are also other types of calls. There's the CSA, which is a coordination and support action, which is very much a sort of an incentive to make organizations work together to achieve whatever goal. And then there are the often shorter or smaller programs like Erasmus, Creative Europe, and so on. All of these have their different priorities. Some of them are one stage, some of them are two stage, depending on the size of the funding range. And depending on the size of the proposal sort of type, there will be either 2, 3, and in some special cases, 5 evaluators on each proposal. And the evaluators, they evaluate the proposal individually. And then there is the role of a recorder or a rapporteur or a vice chair. They tend to use different terms in different DGs and different units, but there is this person who has the role of collating the views of the individual experts and then moderate that into a consensus report, which will be sent to the applicants. There's a very tough sort of struggle to achieve funding. There's no rule for what kind of portion of applicants will be funded, but my experience over these 15 years is that typical between 5 and 7% of the applicants will be awarded funding. Sometimes much less, because some calls attract an unexpected number of proposals. That doesn't change the budget, so it means obviously that a small portion of the proposals will be funded. And then when it comes to the importance of the marginals, in most Horizon 2020 or Horizon and Horizon Europe processes, there is a 3 criteria process. There's the excellence, there's the impact, and there's quality of implementation. And there's a total score of 15. That's the maximum you can achieve. And my experience is that very, very few proposals achieving less than 12 will be funded. Sometimes the threshold or the actual sort of line between funded and unfunded goes as high as 13.5. So we're talking about a very, very competitive process, and that's why some of the details that I will revert to are actually quite important. For the smaller calls where there is often only 2 evaluators, Erasmus, Creative Europe, and so on. There is a different kind of scoring system, and I'll get back to that, but the maximum is 100 points, and very, very rarely projects or proposals with less than 85 to 90% score will be funded. So this is just to tell you that it's not one and a uniform approach to evaluation. It depends very much on the call. It depends very much on which organization within the EU the call is invited from. And also a reminder that evaluators are not alike either. First of all, there are quite a few of us. The European Union uses thousands of experts every year to help them evaluate proposals. They're experts, but they are also generalists, and they are also very often not experts on that specific field or that specific topic which the call relates to. So have that in mind, that you're not speaking to, when you write a proposal, you're not speaking to a sort of a peer researcher within your field. You're speaking to a well-informed generalist within the overall field that we're in. So in my area, creative industries, there are people from sports, there are people from media, there are people from design and architecture, and they are all very often evaluating the same proposals. And also keep a last thing in mind, that there is a diversity issue in the EU. We want a distribution of gender, of nationalities, of language backgrounds, and all this, which means that for every proposal and every evaluation, there's a lot of different points of departure in terms of how you assess and how you judge different types of projects in different parts of the proposal. So just keep in mind that you have to attract the attention and the sympathy of a lot of very, very different people in this process. So don't leave anything to assumptions. Assumption is poison in proposals. So be as sharp and specific as you can. In general, there are these criteria which for large proposals are split into excellence, impact, and pathways to maximize impact and quality of implementation. For the shorter programs, they are often sort of rephrased into 4 different criteria: relevance, quality of content and activities, project management, and dissemination. And then for all proposals, there is the requirement to comply with certain cross-cutting criteria. Overall, one can say that even though these words or these titles are a little different, the key to all proposal evaluation is that we want to know what it is that you are setting out to do, why you're doing it, how you can ensure us that it has an effect on what and on whom, and which means and mechanisms you have chosen to make it happen and make us comfortable about the quality and the robustness of that. And that goes for all kinds of proposals, no matter whether it's €1 million or 20 million euros, whether it's within creative industries or it's within any other kind of science area. As I mentioned, there are 2 sort of scales of scores. This is the one which is the most common, where you have the 5 different sort of 0 to 5 within the 3 criteria. And then there is the one which is used in Creative Europe, in Erasmus, and some of the other shorter programs, where you have 4 criteria, and where the 2 first has a maximum of 30 points each, and the 2 last have a maximum of 20. So it all adds up to 100%. I won't dig into all these sort of the sliding scale of this. The point is that you need to get pretty close to 15 or pretty close to 100 to achieve any funding at all. But I'd like to go into some of the sort of criteria one by one. What it is, excellence, what do we mean by that? Well, first of all, it's whether it's in scope and pertinence. So does it actually answer the call? Does it actually sort of respond to the need that has been specified? If it's not in scope at all, it will be taken out by the Commission before the evaluators get it. But if it's only marginally within scope, it has to be evaluated, but it will get a low score. So it's very important that it actually gets to as close to the sort of core of the problem as possible. Then it's about the concept that you have actually sort of captured that in a way so that you could tell to your grandma and she would understand it. It has to be sort of very clear cut, not too technical, not too complicated, because again, you can be unlucky or lucky, I don't know, that the evaluators do not know very much about that specific area. And if they don't get a picture of it, that will color the entire evaluation process, and you're doomed to get a fairly low score, perhaps because of ignorance, but mostly because you haven't been able to articulate clearly enough what it is that you want. Then the level of ambition, novelty, and ingenuity, that depends a little on what kind of call it is, the demand for innovation. TRLs are used as a measure for whether it's a research action or research and innovation or pure innovation action. And it's very important, if it's asked for it specifically in the call, that you actually hit the target TRLs that are indicated. If you hit beside these, that will be a direct sort of signal that you are not fully aligned with the intentions of the call. And then the methodology part is important. It has to be recognized and well-tested methodologies, and everything has to be paired with realistic and measurable indicators. And KPIs are crucial, because that's the only way that we can, as evaluators, can sort of rest assured that you know what you're setting out to do, and that you can actually monitor and evaluate as you go along that you're reaching these goals. And it's very much the same under the different wording. The sub-criteria are very much alike, the ones for the longer. So there is just this difference that some proposals has a maximum of 70 pages, others have a maximum of 50, and some have a maximum of 40 pages. And depending on the size of the proposal, the maximum size of the proposal, then the level of detail obviously can be sort of turned up or down to match that. When it comes to impact, the most important thing is credibility, because when it comes to the excellence part, it's very much sort of describe what it is that you set out to do. Here in under impact, it's all about presenting a credible forecast of what kind of impact, what kind of influence this will have on the specified the target groups, users, or the organizations involved. In Horizon Europe, it's very much focused on pathways. So it's sort of how do you intend to get there, but it has again to be matched up to or latched up to KPIs and very easily sort of identifiable actions. And one of the things that you need to be sort of aware of is the difference between, and also very often the confusion between dissemination and communication. In the short programs, the title for this section is the dissemination, but it actually also includes communication, which means that it has to be you have to describe the outreach to your academic peers, but also to a general public. And even though you might think that this is not very interesting to a general public, you have to describe ways of sort of communicating this so that the Commission gets a share of the tribute for it, and also understands what it is that you're actually doing. When it comes to the quality of implementation, which in the short programs are called project management, it's very much about how do you intend to achieve what you're promising to achieve. It's all about the quality of the work plan, the logics of the work packages, the sequencing, the milestones, the measurement and the monitoring of progress. So it's very much about making sure that the evaluators feel that this is a professional project management sort of consortium, and whatever they say that they will achieve, they will also achieve. And then there are the cross-cutting issues, which are also different from call to call, but it's very much about and for creative industries, it's been quite central. The representation of social sciences and humanities in the project, so that you get cross and multidisciplinarity integrated into the project. It's how you deal with open science, and it's how you deal with gender dimensions, not in the consortium, that's under implementation, but in making sure that the research and the innovation undertaken has a clear gender balance and make sure that all genders are respected and taken care of in the research. Beyond that, there's also in some calls an expectation that you describe specifically how this will support different EU agendas like the Green Deal or a inclusion agenda or whatever it is, but that will be clearly specified in the call, but just make sure that you also comply with it. And finally, it's very often a demand, but even though it's not, make sure that you try to identify all possible synergies with other EU-funded activities, because that's important in the evaluation process. And then we got to the 3 terms that determine your proposal's destiny. And these words are possibly a little sort of cryptic, but in some of the evaluation material, it's spelled out that you need to or in the scoring, how many minor shortcomings and weaknesses you can have. Some DGs, some units, they want it to be spelled out in the final report so that you say it's not convincingly demonstrated, this is a shortcoming. Other DGs do not want it to sort of be spelled out, but this is the logic of the evaluators. Minor shortcomings are issues which we discuss, but where we say, okay, it's, it could have been there, it's not, but okay, let's just keep that in mind. But without actually penalizing you in terms of lowering the score for that specific. So that could, an example, something that is not sufficiently elaborated, that term will often be connected to this. A shortcoming is something that sort of raises a flag, and where you shouldn't have too many of those in a proposal, because then you will get a very low score. And shortcomings can influence the score. They do influence the score, but not. I mean, you can have 2 or 3 or 4 shortcomings without failing, but they have to be sort of they have to be of a character, so they're not sort of jeopardizing the credibility of the overall proposal. Typically, it's not sort of sufficiently demonstrated that you are able to actually do this. So it's like, okay, that could have been different, that could have been better. If there are some concerns that are characterized as weaknesses in the proposal, it's an automatic below threshold score. And a weakness is that if there are some statements or some promises which are clearly not documented, or which are actually not credible, which are sort of deemed to be taken from plain air, if it's something that just doesn't sort of stick, then it can be characterized as a weakness. But if it is, you will automatically get below threshold, which means that you cannot be funded. And then these very quickly, the sort of concerns that I would recommend you to have in mind. Convergence. Make sure that the proposal converges as much as possible with the call-specific expectations. Be very careful about reading the call, because it's not there for fun. Very often, very, very, very good proposals fall because they are too much in the fringes of the call requirements. They are just submitted for the wrong call. They can be wonderful, but they are not funded. So be very careful about converging. make sure that you present a sort of an objective and well-documented context for your project. Do not just go directly into telling what you set out to do, but why are you doing it? What is the problem? What is the sort of documentation that there's actually some challenges here that we could possibly address with this? So again, do not make the assumption that all the experts understand or already know the field that you're working in. Help them out, give them a story about why is this important. Clarity. Again, do not assume anything. Explain everything, not as if it were your grandmother, that would be a very, very long proposal, but try to be, make sure that nothing can be misunderstood or can be left to the evaluator's imagination. Make sure that everything is clearly cut out. Credibility. There are so many claims in proposal. We will go to 400 conferences. Yeah, but okay, there are 2 years. How do you want to do this? Make sure that all the claims in terms of actual actions and activities are credible within the time frame and the resources that you have available. Control. Make sure that everything that you claim and which can be quantified is quantified in the form of KPIs. They are just sort of a demand. There are there are actions that cannot be quantified, and there is actually a movement in the evaluator corps that we are slowly accepting that certain KPIs can be measured in terms of qualitative measures. But just have that in mind. There has to be a good sort of mechanism for monitoring and control of progress. And contingencies, this is the second last one, and I will leave you. Contingencies, make sure that if you have identified risks or barriers, that you also have a clear designation of how we will deal with that. Not necessarily how we will overcome it, but just recognize these by saying this can be a problem, but if it occurs, then we will try to do this and this and that. And coherence and consistency, make sure that the proposal is a whole, that there are no discrepancies between the different parts of the proposal. That is one of the biggest mistakes that applicants do, that there's something in a table on page 7 that contradicts something on page 29. Okay, what do we believe? Okay, we sort of rule it out. The consortium, make sure that the consortium is well presented, both on an individual level and on a consortium level. Make sure that if people have actually taken part in similar projects or other successful projects, make sure that it's being presented and used as an argument for the proposal. And communication, make sure that there is a fine-meshed communication strategy that goes both towards your peers, but also the general public, as previously said. And then finally, I have to just add a few comments on AI. Using AI in the preparations of proposal is perfectly okay, and it's almost unavoidable. Leaving the application to AI is not a good idea. It's very easily spotted, and it will very often lead to a not so good application or proposal. We have seen them. We have ruled them out. They have been scored very low. If you use it, make sure to mention which AI source you have used. Transparency is important. If you don't, then there will be speculations. When it comes to the evaluation process, we are not allowed to use AI in the process of evaluating anything, mostly because of intellectual property, but also because we're supposed to do this out of our experience and the expertise that we bring to the table. And that will change. AI has already, or the relation to AI has already changed over the last couple of years. Until last year, if you used AI in your research or innovation, the robustness of that AI system had to be described. That is not necessary any longer because now we have sort of come one step further. And this will change over time. It's a work in process. And that was everything I had to tell you. I don't know if there will be time for questions and answers later. If not, you're very free to reach out to me via LinkedIn and we can take the discussion there. Thank you.
Thank you, Steinar. We do not have a lot of time, but it doesn't really matter at this point. We have been answering the questions as we were going. We have some, I think, more practical questions that we would like to answer live. First of all, there are questions if there are any evaluation criteria and scorecard content available online, so people can actually review and then the digest when they apply. And the second is very similar, actually, about the templates and examples of proposals that they that could be reviewed that highlight the tips of evaluation.
You will be able to find the scoring tables. I think they're public in the Commission's web systems. When it comes to samples, no, you will never find samples of proposals unless the organizations who submitted it have published it. But clearly, everything that is submitted to the Commission is restricted. So the Commission will never share proposals as an example. And I don't think that there has been made any mock proposals to illustrate that. But I think it would also be a lousy idea because all calls are different. All calls have to be responded to very specifically on the requirements, the context, the specificity of that call. So I think it could be perhaps misleading to have a sort of a master proposal that people could refer to. It's a lot of hard work to develop a proposal, but if you try to sort of make any shortcuts, the only thing that comes out of that is that you will probably fail.
Steinar, I also wanted to add, maybe this is not very clear to our Canadian colleagues, but we have to be about the use of the AI. The proposals are actually written by people who do not speak English as their first language. So actually using the tools even before AI, where people in Europe were using tools similar to Grammarly, for example, to check for flow grammar, because the important thing is that the evaluators actually understand the English of the proposal, right? So
that is true.
That's true, right? So I would say that. Sorry.
I also think it's important to say that the evaluators also come from all parts of Europe and beyond. So we also have different language skills. And we also have a very high sort of threshold for sort of understanding words that might be misspelled or sentences that are not perfectly constructed. Because we all agree that that's not what's going to that's not what is going to determine the score. It's the content, it's the quality, it's the credibility. It's that the money that Europe is actually granting will be spent wisely. Clerical errors and so on is not a big issue. And actually, and that's one of the things that we have noticed with AI. The proposals are very often very, very slick and very, very, they're overly perfect, and they have a tone of voice which is very rare among human beings. So don't be afraid of being human beings when you write it, because it will actually be read by human beings, and that is equality in itself.
Thank you. So we are ending on the high note about the human centered research. I think we do not have any more immediate questions. Yes, we will share the slides and the recording with you within 1 week. So as usual, everyone who came and who registered as well. So look in your mailbox. I also put in the chat the link to our survey, so you can share your views. And I wanted then to ask Kostas to close this webinar. And I hope he is with us. Yes.
I am with you and have listened very carefully to all the speakers, Agi. I would like to thank very much all of the speakers in this third webinar in the new series of webinars that we organized since the new Horizon Europe Work Program. For me, it has been really interesting. I take also note about the human-centered research. And I would like really to say that we have heard also during the roadshow that I mentioned in the beginning, in the opening remarks, that a lot of you are following these webinars and you find them really useful. That's very, very encouraging to all of us here in the delegation, and also to our friends in ICET who are working very hard in organizing these outreach activities. Before closing, I would like to tell you that with ICET, we will be together at the workshop on 1st of April at N3 Summit in Toronto. N3 Summit is Canada's flagship advanced manufacturing event. And we will have also there the opportunity to talk about Horizon Europe opportunities, to connect and to see how we can reap the benefits of Canada's association to Horizon Europe. So with this, I would like to close this webinar and to thank you all. Have a nice afternoon here in Canada.